so much to everyone who's joined us. Good morning. This is our first installment in our web series, Breakfast with Realtor Champions. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jordan Forrest, and I am the Government Affairs Director for the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors. And I'm joined by our association's Vice President of Policy and Engagement, Casey Angel. We are so excited to kick off this series with a true realtor champion, Commissioner Sig Hutchinson. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Commissioner.
It's great to be with you, Jordan.
Before we get started with everything, for those of you who are joining us live, Casey is going to be monitoring our Q&A feature on here. So if you have any questions as we're going through, feel free to drop them in there, and Casey will work them into our presentation this morning. He'll be monitoring that as we go along. Commissioner, if you're ready, we'll just jump right in. For our viewers today, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and about how you came to serve on the Wake County Commission?
Well, thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Casey, and the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors for having this morning. I really appreciate everybody being on the call. And let me just say how much I appreciate the realtor community, all my friends in real estate. So I've been in Raleigh, Wake County for about 35 years, originally from West Texas, for Lubbock, Texas, where it's dry and flat, no trees. So when I got here, I fell in love with the place. I've been a serial entrepreneur most of my life, but for about 30 years of my life, I've been a Dale Carnegie instructor. Many of you remember Mr. Carnegie for his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I would strongly recommend that book. It's a great book. I taught that course and then went out on my own for about 20 years in sales and communication skills. My family's always been into biking. So when I got here, I found the Greenway system and fell in love with the Greenways and wanted to do more. So I started using my communication skills and getting involved in political issues, and started talking to county commissioners about leading bond referendums and city councilors. Over that period of time, I led about 8 bond referendums, about $350 million to improve our Greenway system, which I'm really known for, but parks, open space, affordable housing, transportation. 2012, I was wanting to provide more transportation options for our citizens. Transit referendum was necessary. The existing commissioners were not really interested in that, so I ran for office in 2014. We got that passed in 2016. So I've been a commissioner ever since then, and I really love it.
Well, we are grateful to have you, and I'm certainly grateful to have you. I live right beside a Greenway, and I enjoy, especially in quarantine, just being able to walk right outside and have access to that. So we appreciate you striving to have those areas for us to make Raleigh a livable city that we can all enjoy. This has certainly, as I just mentioned with quarantine, been a year for the books. The Wake County Commissioners stood strong with us and our industry during the pandemic to deem real estate essential. Why did you and the other commissioners feel that this was so important?
Okay, Jordan, that's a great question. Early in my career, I was in the real estate business. I was a realtor. I went through the training, and I think that the training is just invaluable for those of you on the call who've been through that training and understand the significance and the magic of real estate to be able to create value and wealth for communities, to literally change lives. So that being said, there is not a better vehicle to allow people to rise up, to create wealth. You know, a lot of people are not good in business. Business is difficult. The stock market can be very complex and confusing, but you can always buy a house, and then you can buy another house, and you can move up. And many, you know, for most people, their house is their largest asset. And so here in America, the American dream is actually owning a house. So that wealth creation, changing lives, and allowing people to improve their lives is so important. I understand that. I so appreciate all the realtors and all they do to make that happen. So as a county commissioner, it was so important for us to allow the realtors to continue to sell their products and for our citizens to be able to buy. That, as we know, real estate's really up. I understand year on year it's up about 20%, which is awesome. And I also understand there's a bit of an inventory problem. So the realtors who are out there listening to this know if there's not enough product. So one of the things that I'm doing, Jordan, as a commissioner, is to try to create opportunities to create more product on the ground. We can talk about affordable housing and housing affordability. But one of the things that I'm clearly aware of, and we could talk about what we're doing in the public sector, but the public sector cannot solve our affordable housing problem. It has to be solved by the private sector. And the way that the private sector solves that is by creating more product. Now, what we can do in government is to make it easier for people to, developers and builders, to be able to build more product. And I have been doing a lot that I can talk about to help build more product to make realtors have more houses to be able to sell, if you'd like to know more about that.
No, that's great. Housing affordability is a big issue. It's one of our policy positions, something that we are really passionate about. And we're grateful to have partners like you who help us make sure there's no legislation that's keeping that inventory from being able to be available to buyers here in our area. This is a crazy year, so I'm sure some things have shifted around, but what are your priorities moving into 2021?
Well, one of my priorities is to make it easier for realtors to be able to sell houses. Jordan, you mentioned about more make it easier to build houses. So we are embarking, will have been for the last couple of years, on a comprehensive land use plan. We call it Plan Wake. We plan to roll that out later this year or early next year. And it's really pretty simple in just a conceptual terms. We all love our green space. We all love living in Raleigh, right? Love those parks, those greenways, a city within a park. Raleigh has been called. And so what we want to do is we want to preserve that green space and that open space out on our fringe. But we also recognize that we want to direct that growth towards our city centers, and we call them vibrant centers. We want more density towards our city and our town centers, and then we want to transition from those city centers out to that open space where we could protect the open space on the far fringe, but then have that vibrancy in our municipal centers. Well, that's really what we're trying to do with the comprehensive land use plan. But it's, for those of you who know, who are in the industry, it's difficult, particularly the vibrant side, the density side. When you start dealing with town and city councilors, and you start talking about multi-family housing or townhomes or ADUs, which are known as granny flats, housing affordability, or affordable housing, workforce housing. These can be difficult decisions for city councilors. So what we're trying to do is to create more opportunity for city councilors and town councilors to understand the significance and the importance of density and housing and land use, so that we can create more product in our city centers, and then create this opportunity for green space or open space out on the fringe. The other thing that we want to do, Jordan, is that in all developments, we'd like to see all price points. I live out here in Bedford, in North Raleigh, for realtors who know that, and we love Bedford. We live on the Greenway. It's right outside here. We walk on it every day. But in Bedford, you have every price point of housing. You start with apartments, and then you go to townhomes and Charleston homes, all the way up to the estate homes. You have 5-foot sidewalks, street trees. We have retail just right over here. And so it's that type of mixed use. So all types of price point and housing can create that housing affordability, that workforce housing, as well as estate type homes. So all of this comes together in this Plan Wake initiative around land use. The other thing that I'm keenly interested in, Jordan, is to improve the safety and health of our citizens in Wake County. And the way that I've been doing this since 2014 is around something we call social determinants of health. And what we're finding, Jordan, is just in the terms of the general population, your zip code can be an 18 to 20 year difference in your life expectancy, which also means the quality of life. So just one zip code difference means that your life expectancy is 18 to 20 years less. Well, the reason behind that is what we call the social determinants, or these are the things that impact your health and lifestyle in a very significant way. The two that are very important around that, which really deals with how we spend our money, number one is housing. So what we want to do from a social determinants perspective is we want to make sure that no person hopefully is spending over 30% of their income on housing. The second one is transportation, because we spend sometimes up to 30% of our income for low income people on transportation. Automobiles are very, very expensive. So we want to create more transportation options. So what I've been doing just within those two things have been working around affordable housing and transportation. So let's talk about affordable housing just quickly. One of the things that we as commissioners have done is we put a 1 cent property tax on affordable housing. That generates about $14 million a year. And how we've been using that from the public sectors in various ways. Let me start at the very bottom. At the very bottom of people who are homeless, we have been working to create opportunities for them to be housed. Right now in Wake County, we have what's called a healthy hotel. So as a result of COVID, we have taken over a hotel. And we have 120 of our homeless residents and citizens in Wake County actually living in that hotel. We have nursing, we have 3 meals a day, we have social workers. And so we are working with those people to get them stable, ultimately to get them into housing. Okay, so that's at the very low end. At the very next level, people are stressed, particularly in this COVID situation. Many people who've lost their job are worried about their rent or their mortgage payment. So at that point, we are working very hard to keep people in their housing. So we have rental assistance, we have utility assistance on a new House Wake initiative that's going to be rolling out in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be important to keep people in their housing. The next level up are people in their housing, in their house, but they're about to lose it. And this is what we call, or who actually lost their house. And then, so what we call is rapid rehousing. So we want to, if they lose their housing and are on the street, what we find is if we can get them back into housing very quickly, particularly for a family, then it stops them from being in a chronic type situation of homelessness. So that's critically important. And then the final area that up is workforce housing, which we want to create housing affordability for citizens that, you know, our police, our fire, our teachers, folks who, you know, we want to live in our city center as well. And from that perspective, we like to work with our municipalities to ensure that we can have that workforce housing in those city centers. Now that's housing, but let me mention my second priority, which is transportation. I am the chair of our metropolitan planning organization, which makes decisions on billions of dollars of transportation projects every year here in the Wake County area. So from that standpoint, let me mention a couple of things. Number one is our roads. They have changed the formula for how we allocate funding for our road infrastructure in North Carolina. And as a result of that, they've changed the priorities. Now the priorities built around congestion, which is really good for us here in the urban centers. We're getting a lot more money, a lot more highway money, and this is good for the citizens and the realtors because a lot more money is going to be allocated in a very significant way towards our built environment of roads. So there's going to be a lot of changes on our highways here in the next 10 years, but also transit and providing transportation options. In 2016, as I mentioned, we passed a $2.3 billion transit referendum. That's going to triple bus capacity from 17 miles up to 70 miles with 15-minute frequencies. We're going to have a brand new technology called bus rapid transit. For those of you who've lived in areas with bus rapid transit, it's kind of a blend between a bus and a rail. It runs on rubber tire on dedicated corridors, but it's a lot bigger than a regular bus. You buy your tickets in advance, so it's got kind of that rail look and feel to it. And then the third area is 38 miles of commuter rail, which will start in Garner run through Raleigh and then into Cary, Morrisville, RTP, and ultimately into Durham. So that's going to provide more transportation options to deal with our congestion issues, dealing with our housing issues, and then from my perspective, just dealing with the general health and well-being and safety of our citizens are all priorities to me to try to make the lives better for our citizens.
Thank you for sharing those with us. I know Melissa, our colleague who's on here, is a big fan of your Plan Wake initiative. So she might have some follow-up questions later on about that. What is your favorite thing, more, candidly, and what is your favorite thing about serving our community?
Yeah, I mean that's another just great question. It's really fun being a commissioner, and you can do so many things. As I was mentioning, this $2.3 billion transit referendum that's going to change people's lives. The housing initiatives that's going to be significant. With this $14 million, we're going to be able to build over 700 units of affordable housing this year. When I first became a commissioner, we did a living wage initiative for all Wake County employees. So we raised the wages of all employees up to a living wage. That was many times a 30% increase, a salary increase. So now that's $15 an hour. I'll tell you a story. When I was chair several years ago, there was an apartment called Forest Hills in Garner. There were 38 units and 38 families living in Forest Hills. That unit got sold to a developer, and that developer gave those 38 families 30 days that they had to be out of the apartment. So those folks who were at the low end of the income scale were in very serious straits because they had no way to be able to find new housing in 30 days. So 38 families were going to be on the street here in Wake County and in like a normal situation. But as a commissioner, we were able to step in to talk to the developer, to get more time from the developer. So he gave us really up to 6 months by the time everything was done. We brought in all of the resources of human services and all of our team to be able to work with each one of those 38 families. And Jordan, I'm happy to say all 38 of those families were able to find housing to be rehoused as a result of just being able to, as a commissioner, step in there and make a difference. It's an amazing amount of power, and used correctly, you can truly impact the lives of our citizens.
Yeah, that's an amazing reason why you enjoy doing this.
I
don't think anyone's going to be able to top that story probably in this series. But as we wrap up and before we go to our Q&A feature for any questions from the group, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share or ways that people can get involved and support your campaign?
Well, thanks, Jordan. First of all, I just really, really, really want to thank my friends in the real estate community, our realtors. You do an amazing service. Being a realtor is difficult work. I mean, I know it. I was a realtor at one time. It's long hours, and you're away from your family, and it's strange hours. You're working nights and weekends, and you've got to be ready to go. It's not for everybody. And so for the folks that move on, like me, out of the real estate profession, I think it's so important that we had that education and understand the power and the magic of real estate. But for those who are good at it, and you know who you are, I mean, the amount of wealth opportunity that you have in the business it's an unlimited income potential, and you're truly working for yourself. You can set your own schedule. You can work with who you want to, and you're, as I said, your income is unlimited. The real estate profession is an amazing profession if you're in it just to learn about real estate, or if you're in it to make a career and a future and to earn a whole lot of money. All of that is available, and I appreciate you because the lives that you're changing. As it's the American dream. And so as a commissioner, I want to do all I can to help you be successful. And to that standpoint, obviously, I'm running for reelection. My website is Sig for Wake, but most importantly, please vote. You know, as a democracy, it's so important to exercise our right to vote. This election year is going to be so important. So no matter who you vote for, please get out and vote and let your voice to be heard this year to improve our government here in Wake County, in Raleigh, or Cary, or wherever you live, and in America. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you. Casey, do we have any questions from the chat?
We do. Thank you so much again, Commissioner Hutchinson. This was fantastic. A great way for people to be able to get to know you a little bit better here in the Realtor community and hopefully outside of it as well. We had a question come in during our chat from one of our board of directors members and also a gentleman you know well from our Wake County School Board, Mr. Bill Fletcher. You know, Bill is obviously talking so much with great length, not only here with our realtors, he's a fabulous source of information, but also he had a quick question for you as well. What are some ways that you can get together and talk about some of the financial weight in the education funding realm? Obviously, this is something that is, you know, 54% of the county budget at any one
Right.
time. How do you work together with the legislature, the General Assembly, to either make up for those funding problems, things like that? We'd love to hear you touch on those.
Well, thanks, Bill. It's good to see you on the call. Thanks for being here. Bill is a great school board member and a great friend. And I think the best way to start the answer to that question, Bill, as you know, is the county commissioners work very closely with the school board. We like each other a lot. We have the same values. We understand the significance of public education. And from that standpoint, Bill knows that this commission has funded public education more and faster than any other commission in the history of the county. But to Bill's point, the funding of public education by Constitution is the responsibility of the General Assembly. In some counties, the county government provides no additional funding for public education. You know, and in Wake County, we have the highest teacher supplement in the state of North Carolina, which means that in Wake County, we can get some of the best teachers. But to Bill's point, you know, the issues that we have around public education, first and foremost, needs to reside at the General Assembly level. And if you are not happy with the amount of funding that the Wake County public school system is getting, or public education in general, this is something that you can exercise your right, as I was mentioning, in voting in November, to vote in those types of General Assembly members, both at the House and the Senate, who believe in public education and believe in funding more public education and more funding for more public education. And let me just make that very simple and say that one of the best indicators of that is, can we get our teacher salaries up to a national level? That's, you know, we're not there yet. We're getting better. But if you can ask that candidate, do you believe in raising public education funding to the point that the teacher pay can get up to the national level? Because we want to make it attractive for people to go into public education. And the best way to do that is, you know, if you want good people, you got to pay them. And it's a tough job. Being a teacher is very difficult, as we all know. For many of our parents who are playing that role now in this COVID type of environment, it's tough. And teachers have a tough job. We need to pay them. We love them. We appreciate them. We need to pay them. And to pay them, public education needs more money. Right, Bill? Right.
I hear him nodding. I can hear him nodding from here, actually. No, that's fantastic. And that is a very complicated question. Obviously, when it comes to the funding, we could probably have another 3 or 4 hours on here just about that singular topic. So thank you for kind of taking it into a nutshell and breaking it down. Another one of the things that you talked about at length was the way that the Wake County Commission works with its individual municipalities. That's one thing that's vital to us and the 12 individual municipalities. So can you touch on that a little bit more? How important it is to your role, how important it is to the commission as a whole?
Thanks, Casey. I love that question. We have 12 municipalities in Wake County, and I know and I love them all. They're like There's no favorite child because I love all our municipalities. I love all our mayors. I know them all. I work with them very, very closely, and they are all working. We have great mayors, by the way, great mayors, and they all work very, very hard to make your lives better. Now, they have a tough job, and tying it back to the real estate side, for those of you who are in the business, particularly on the development side, it can get very tense when you're putting, say, a multifamily development on the table in front of a mayor and some councilors, and you have a room full of people who are deciding that they don't want that density, or for whatever reason, they don't want that development. They talk about traffic or whatever. So it's so important for us collectively, me with our Plan Wake initiative, but the realtor community, to be able to educate our mayors and our city and town councilors to the significance of density and what we call vibrant centers. And we can talk about the value of that in communities, which create more opportunities to get to know your neighbors, and more opportunity for mixed use development, and more retail and restaurants, that type of vibrancy that we love. But we have to start to educate these leaders, so when the room is full of people who don't want these types of development, that they can stand up to them. It's, Jordan, you talk about our greenways, and I've done that work for 20 years. But when we started this, and even now today, people, it's amazing. They say, I love the greenways, just not in my backyard. Right. And so I have set through.
I love them in my backyard.
Exactly. Right back here. I have it. Yep. But what has got to go in? It's so funny. I tell, in rooms of 30 or 40 very angry neighbors who did not want the greenway, I say, look, you're really for it. You just don't know it yet. Right. Once it goes in, you get to know your neighbors, and you get to walk, and your dog loves it. The kids, get to know other kids. They absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. Density is the same way. Sometimes it doesn't quite sound right. That's why we changed the name to Vibrant Centers. But that type of community, look, we're social beings, and COVID has truly shown us that, through this COVID situation and this COVID anxiety that we're having, we are social beings. We love to be with other people. And so I think so much of our work is educating our elected leaders to the type of communities that we want to live in, where land use and transportation collectively come together to create healthy communities.
That's a fantastic answer to a very complicated question, one that touches on all the intricacies that the commission does, as well as our municipalities and our greenways. I love it. Everything's interconnected at the end of the day. When you really get into it and you get into the meat and potatoes of it, that's what you really start to find, is that everything is interconnected. Well, We're going to wrap up here today. We're just short of a half hour. I wanted to thank everybody that's on the call and remind everybody to turn your ballot over this year. We touched on it. Commissioner touched on it. This is a long ballot this year. Everybody knows the presidential, the Senate, the gubernatorial races that are going on. But if you want to vote for people and commissioners like Sig Hutchinson that are running, remember to turn your ballot over. These are the people that are touching so much of our tax dollars and our funding and our bond referendums, so many things that are so important to our industry and our community. So make sure that you vote this year. We have a whole blog on that. If you go to rrar.com, if you haven't registered to vote yet, make sure you do so. You still have time. There is time to do so. So get involved. Commissioner Hutchinson, thank you so much for being here with us today. Jordan, fantastic job. Love having you here. You're such a fantastic friend of the realtor community. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.